My name is Edgardo Frías, and I'd like to introduce myself this way. If you could tell from my accent, I'm Mexican. Yes, I've been here for 7 years already with my family. Chile has embraced me, and this is my second home. I have many Chilean friends, and I like to remember them with Google Photos, as you can see. And AI is involved in this type of products. The other thing is that I also handle Peru in business, not just Chile. This is Gonzalo and Silvana, and a different kind of barbecue because it has that spice that we Mexicans love that much. Why do I use Google Photos? It helps me illustrate why I'm about to address, which is AI. Today, AI is very, routinely used, and we're speaking of a technology that will continue to be used in the next years, but we're not there. We're here. AI is in our hands, but yes, it'll evolve a lot faster. And why am I telling you about this? I don't know if you've used this in Google Photos, but you can delete people to make your photos look a little better. I don't know if it's happened to you, but there might be a scaffolding or someone accidentally just photobombed you, but you can correct that with Magic Eraser by Google Photos. But even beyond that, I'd like to talk about AI in general. This, AI is just a part of the world, but it's like our brain. Look at the analytic part of our brain that helps us synthesize a lot of data and also allows us to make predictions. I don't know if you know, but we launched a hub for floods. We started in Chile, but then we want to deploy it in Latin America to help authorities evacuate people when we're detecting that there might be floods. As you know, in Chile, there are plenty of communities that are still located and based near rivers. And when we see that it's going to be a heavy rainfall, we study that and we can predict the loss of their houses and material losses, but sometimes, most importantly, human losses, not just materials. So this is that analytic side of AI, but what gathers us today here is the fun part, less technical part, and that is the part of the Gen AI. Generative AI allows us to create content, those conversations that you can have that it's being used with chatbots, but it's evolving to a much more interactive platform thanks to the large language models. And I'm not gonna get too technical. And then I wanted to bring you this slide. It's not just to scare you. I don't want to cause any tension, but quite the opposite. I want to make you a little bit awkward, give you that tingling in your stomach, but for excitement and enthusiasm. I'm going to start here. When we speak of AI, particularly generative AI or Gen AI, we're speaking about multimodal models, or it's basically the ability to combine text, audio files, and video. In the past, it was very difficult to achieve this. Today, when we speak of, how people are searching on Google, people take a picture of a shoe and they tell it, I want this in red. So you're combining images and text. And we need algorithms that will allow us to give an answer to that in microseconds so that I can buy this in the store. And I can also know how many miles the next store or the closest store is, and you can see that. And I also know there are more colors available and that people have rated these shoes and they can tell me if it has 2 or 3 or 5 stars, and I can read the comments, all of the reviews. All of that appears from combining a text with a picture, for instance. This allowed us to say, let's create content in a very different way. When I told you that we are in this race with this huge drive, let me tell you something. These are the parameters. Think of the parameters as the quality team for results. Have you ever heard of hallucinations of the Gen AI? Raise your hand. So few. No one at the back ever heard of Gen AI hallucinations? Well, when you come to the stage, we'll talk about this, Nico. But it would happen that You say, make me a picture of a cat, and the cat would be, let's say, 80% cat and 20% something else. Who knows? And that was what was called Gen AI hallucinations. But this has evolved very quickly. This was a model that we created in 2019 with 2 million parameters. Now, HEMA 2, that was launched this year, has 27 billion parameters. So the quality capacity that we are reaching with results is getting to a very different and exponential level, almost like bacteria to human beings. And on the other side, there's quality control. We need to speak about the capacity, and this is what the tokens are. When we launched the first version of Gemini, we were speaking of basically 32,000 tokens, and the latest version in a single year after we launched Gemini 1.5 Pro, we're at 2 million. So we moved from 37,000 to 2 million. And what does it mean? Think about this as the short-term memory. All of the documents with which you can build a model to create content. And I go back to the same point. It could be text plus images. It could be PDF file or audio or video, and you could say, make me a representation of a cat, and you see the cat and you can see even the little hairs moving, and you say, wow. That is what this allows us to do. The capacity to create content is evolving pretty fast. So that's why I was telling, we're not here in the curve, we're here. And probably many of us will be looking at this evolution in a more daily basis. An example of this, and not a new one, is when you used to search something. Answer me this question, raise your hand. When you are asking, I want to do maybe a quick search, and it will correct you, the spelling. Google would correct your spelling. Well, that's really easy. It wasn't as complex, but in a way, it would create a quick generative result to be able to interpret fast, even with an orthography, like a spelling correction. And now just maybe if you wrote something with a G instead of a J, and all of that. So you might start seeing that this is useful. You incorporate it even more. We can all agree on that, right? That's how far my talk about Gen AI has gotten, because the idea is to delve into other topics. This is going to illustrate what I just explained. Where we are today, we are becoming more and more sophisticated. On the side of parameters, you saw that quality control. And of course, we have the tokens capacity. Now, beyond bringing all of the Google products to you that could be based on Gen AI and Imagen 3, where you write a prompt and you get a beautiful picture like the wolf here, or create music with a few beats, or Veo, that's being integrated to YouTube, where you can create backgrounds or content with Gen AI, I propose to you a very different example, and that is the following. To respond to a question in the next 25 minutes? Yes, 25. The question is, can artificial intelligence create a tool that will expand the vision of an artist and expand human imagination? What's human imagination like? We take it and we drive it, we boost it with artificial intelligence. So, what we are going to comment on is Google Labs experiment. At Google, we have this saying, fail fast and iterate. Learn from it, or repeat it, iterate, so that you can have a learning from it. So we like to experiment, and when we experiment, we need very talented people, highly qualified people, having access to experimenting, and always focusing on the users, which is what we did with a project called Infinitive Wonderland. We invited 4 graphic visual artists to collaborate with us. And we invited them to collaborate on a project that was very different from what we were used to and they were used to, and that's to interact with artificial intelligence and trying to answer that question, where's my creativity going and how can I incorporate this to it? Because as many of you, if you're creators, if you're producers or creative people, sometimes facing new technology is daunting, it's awkward, particularly when you have this halo around it of this concept, it's going to replace us. I've just said this huge elephant in the room. But that's part of it. It's part of the topics. Oh, I'm going to be replaced at my job. Where's my seal? Where's my footprint in this world? Because that's what we're after as creatives. So we'll tell you more how this goes. I think the video was pretty fast. I don't know. But we gathered with Eric Hu, Sean Alex, Eric Carter, and Haruko Hayakawa, 4 of the main visual exponents in the US, like in art. And I'm gonna tell you, well, the video will tell you at the end how this goes. It's a full experiment, it's a long video, but we will try to summarize it to tell you the idea behind it. First point. We asked them for feedback. How did you feel when you arrived? And this is a translation for Haruko Hayakawa's statement. I'm a little scared of what AI can do. I became an artist and a creative because it's a calling. I like to have the idea, I like to work on the idea, and I like to learn new skills. I like to test myself. I do not want to feel that they're taking what I love the most away from me. And have you ever felt like this? Can you relate? You're very shy today. And this replacement, I think, hits you too hard. But this curiosity is what the organizers had in mind too. You know, that tell me more spirit. I'm feeling very awkward with this, but I'm here for it. And everyone was like this, you know, very itchy. And I would like to tell you more about Eric Hu's vision. I think from his artistic perspective, really represented what we're living today. I'm sorry, we need to coordinate here with the technician.
AI is in this moment where it's presenting a lot of existential questions to a lot of different professions, but it's not the first time in history where a new piece of technology hugely disrupted an industry. It's not even the first time in art history where this has happened. If you look at the Renaissance, painting kind of felt like graphic design in some ways, where it wasn't really art, it was a service. One of the biggest clients was the Catholic Church. Painting had the responsibility of recording history. When the camera came along, the responsibility shifted to the photograph. Without that responsibility now, painting had just a lot more room to experiment and try new things. I don't think it's a coincidence that abstract expressionism, minimal geometric, more conceptual art emerged only after the camera was invented. When people start being artistic with AI and try to break into new territories, that's where really interesting things start to happen.
So what's up? Had you ever heard about this disruptive part of history? Good, right? Well, we didn't know it, and I love that analogy when the camera came. And could anyone grab their phone? Or is anyone carrying a camera besides that guy? You have a camera on your phone. Imagine the disruptive power of that technology at that time. And for us, it's now like normal to just have a camera in our pocket. And it's part of what he says, or she said, like, we need to adapt to technology. We need to take that awkwardness away, or that uncomfortable feeling away, to drive our creativity. I want to tell you more about Infinitive Wonderland project. With these four creators, the idea was to reinterpret Alice in Wonderland's illustration. Just to be faithful to the title, to the adventures of Alice in Wonderland. Do you remember when this book was written? 1865. And it was written by Lewis Carroll and illustrated by John Tenniel. Please, stick with that name, because Tenniel plays a role in this experiment of Alice's adventures in Wonderland. The process began as many other creative projects.
There we go. Okay, so this is a summary of what he said in the video. So this is not the first time that a new technology makes humanity go crazy. Painting was a service to record history, but when the photographic camera came out, this responsibility went on to photography. Okay, so recently in Chile, we had the presence of our chief officer in AI, and what he was commenting was that AI is being really the fourth big revolution in humanity. So even some of us say that internet was part of this revolution. We say actually it's not, because internet gave us access to the information. So now it's how do we create information with this? So we can go beyond the borders, beyond the frontiers. And I'm very proud of this. And actually, I didn't have anything to do with this, but I feel proud anyway. Two people in Google, that is the director and the CEO of the DeepMind unit, got a Nobel Prize in chemistry. That was exactly because of the model or the technology of AlphaFold to be able to predict in 3D the protein, the DNA of proteins. And this is very important for the future, because we're gonna have new developments in health, because we've never really arrived here before. We've been trying to resolve this and have solutions for this for many, many years. Now we're having like a very fast forward accelerated process. So we're like in the beginning of this new curve. So this has to do with where our imagination can take us. So coming back to the Infinity Wonderland project, we got together with them. As I told you, first point was to ask them how did they feel and if they had worked with AI. Some of them had certain interactions, but they didn't feel so comfortable. So we started to interact little by little, because we saw the creative process, the ideation, the experimentation, the healing, and the expansion of the ideas. So that didn't actually change. The same process was carried out, but the tools were totally different. So I want to take you step by step, and I'm going to do this. I'm going to show you illustrating with some very short movies how this process of Infinity Wonderland was, how to illustrate the 1,200 lines of the novel of Lewis Carroll. So there we go. So we have illustrations that are completely different, but that illustrate, they show the style and the personality of each one of these graphic designers or graphic artists. So on your left, you have Eric Hu, Schwanex, John Tenniel, that's the illustrator, the original illustrator of Alice in Wonderland, Eric Carter, and Haruko Hayakawa. So as you see, each one of them have a different touch, a proposal, an artistic proposal that is different to each other. Different, actually, to John Tenniel's one, well, that was the classic one, and we call it classic because we were not alive back then. So the first process was to invite them to design 4 illustrations, 4 of the same sort of part of the first illustrations of John Tenniel. As you see, John Tenniel didn't have one illustration per line, had one illustration after a few, or that involved a few pages, right? So this, he started drawing, doing its own proposal, its own style, including these ones of John Tenniel, Schwann X, and the Eric Hu ones. And they started to put some descriptions of what they had there. And this took them to the second step, which is to start identifying and curating and taking them to the next level with image tool. And what is image? Image 2 starts reading the style so that they can produce images that are similar. The videos are very short, I'm sorry. So that's that. I'm going to show you what stands struck after. So they started putting the different characters and situations so that the model trained itself. So they are very involved with AI. The artist is there. It's not AI, didn't go on its own. AI took the information of the artist and did what it does. And this is key because the definition that the artist is setting there, when the second image is created, the second image is not developed by the artist. The second image has to sort of comply with the seal of the artist, and this is what makes this totally different. So the artist is involved in the whole process. He just has a different machine that allows him to sort of make this work exponential. This is just a part of the process, right? So the third step is how to take this to be able to illustrate each one of the phrases of the book. And what this tool does is that it takes the phrase, the line that's written there, it gives it to Gemini, and Gemini generates a prompt to create the image that illustrates. So it starts with 4, and they were curated, but we didn't curate the 1,200 lines of this book. So we need someone working with Gemini to help them read and translate into a prompt so that it can help us develop the next images. The next step, or last step, we have to have fun in the process, right? So we have to select. And here with the tool, you can select the artist, and they'll show you the same line, but interpreted by different artists. So it's really cool, right? It's very crazy, actually. How can you think that you can illustrate 1,200 lines of a novel, right? So if we would have thought about it, it's hey, Nico, would you like to do this work of doing 1,200 illustrations of one novel? Maybe you could tell me, like, yeah, how much are you going to pay me? And how many years do I have to be able to take this through? And that changes the potential of what I can have as a result. So Infinity Wonderland becomes a matter of bringing this novel to a next level, but also the work of John Tenniel, that obviously is not with us today and since many years. It's taking his work to a different level because we brought it also to his design, not only of the artist, but also of the original illustrator of this book. So the result of this, do you remember the phrase, like, hey, I'm a little bit afraid of losing this possibility of doing my art? Here we said, with this human touch, we would have not been able to create this fantastic world. The role that the artists perform in the creation of these models of AI is vital and influences the whole creative process. So at no point this person started saying, like, oh, this person is going to sort of substitute, or this AI is going to, like, take my job. It's a different understanding. It's like this AI comes to make my work better. So the best way to learn something new is by teaching it. So through this process of teaching AI model my own style, this is the most fundamental thing of an artist, right? I've learned much more about him. I've learned about what makes him unique, but also how I can evolve myself. So there's a thing about self-discovery as an artist with this very tiny experiment, and I really love this phrase because it says, I understood that this is a tool. It's a tool that will potentiate, it'll make my work better and stronger. In Google, we want that all the technology that we create is to improve people's lives in many, many areas, and also content creator and also the artist's life. So I'm going to share a video now of what we're seeing now on how AI is collaborating in different areas.
Collaborated with a machine before.
Rap is willing to hit it and run with it and play with it, give it a life that it didn't know it had.
It's a whole other learning curve.
Yes! And that.
It allows the world to see me and more of the lens of who I am in full color.
Get big, get in the pocket.
What if we use machines to understand underwater songs?
A glass of water with a goldfish inside. You swimming in the river, this a whole different vibe. I'm having like choice overload.
Let's go. Don't stop, live free.
Can we hear corporate logo, jogging music, snare, paradiddle? Can we just say a 600-foot long trombone?
Yes.
The safest thing for a blind person to do is to sit still. I ain't sitting still.
Can you match this energy?
That's the first time I won road in decades.
Important is supposed to be happening with this. When you put it in the hands of people.
See you move to this. I got you excited.
Entonces, the invitation I do to you is curate material, experiment, and enjoy. Because today we're in a new era of how to do things. So don't doubt that. That's happening. If you don't do it yourself, it's not going to surprise you that someone else is going to be doing it, and then you're gonna say, "Oh my God, I should have done it before." So this is an invitation for all of you. This is a QR or Google Apps, and you're gonna find many cases, artistic cases, but in every area. So are you ready? I'm gonna leave it there just a little longer. Ready? Okay. But actually you can Google this, so you're gonna find so many cases, and this is very inspiring for all of us. Thank you very much. I want to thank you for this presentation, MediaMorfosis, for inviting us. This is a topic that we've been talking about so much. It generates so many doubts, not only because it's intimidating and the process, but we all have all these questions. We felt that that AI is already in our home. So I want to talk a little bit with you of a technical part and then a legal part that touches on creativity. So there's many doubts still, and I've been talking with a lot of people, with people that thought that blockchain was going to change their life, and when they were entering blockchain, AI came along, and AI, it's saying, it's grabbing parts of works of others to build what I want. So is it like that or not? There's information in internet that if the AI has access, they can do it. Depends on AI because there's many AIs. Yes, this is a big risk. And we worry about validating the source so that you say that this that I found, where it's coming from. That if you want, you can see results in search in YouTube, there's a referential point or who the author is, or the company or the institutions that created this or that product. So a lot of the differences versus other models of generative AI is that we have results, and then you say, oh, should I believe this or not? And the thing is that at the end of 2022, the model that came out used information that was from 2019 and earlier. So if you would say who won the World Cup, AI would not be able to tell you. So you have to choose the best tool you've got. So there's a debate, and this is a technology, and because it's expanding so fast, we're seeing the results now, and us, as a company, we self-regulate a lot, and I'm going to tell you why. And this is because we're fortunate enough to be every day in the hands of 500 million people, with 15 of the applications that Google has, and of 15 of these, and 6 of these, Gmail, YouTube, etc., we have 2,000 million people. So we cannot just play around we're going to lose your trust. And we cannot say, oh, I'm sorry, I was mistaken. No. We cannot be mistaken there, or we try to not be mistaken there. So if we're going to have mistakes, we're going to try and make mistakes in the best way possible, even if that sounds actually weird. But this is a responsibility that we have. And we also need to demand this responsibility, right? Like this information of who conquered America or who discovered America, and AI can say like, oh, Coldplay when it came to Chile. That's not the answer you're looking for. So we have to be aware as users of which tool we're using and how we're using, not just the technology, but also the users. And in this same line, and taking your example of these hallucinations, so one of the first things that happens, because we were sort of like poorly educated by Google, I mean in the good sense of the word, right? We needed useful results, reliable, etc. I know a lot of people that's using generative AI to generate different things from the creative side. But if we go to the creative side, sort of linked to docu-series or documentary, do I have to worry about this? Is it now I have to double check the information that comes out, or can I trust that the information that I'm raising for this script is the correct one?
It's about the relevance of that information for users. This means that if it was useful for you, for her, and for me, and he's searching, he's getting references from all of us, and it's pertinent. It's not like we're having a checker and like a verifier. It's different than Wikipedia or a site, a website that is referencing. Google indexes the information, but it's not necessarily generating the information. It's not creating it. It's about what you're saying. What you're saying is about the curation of the content. But we are still trying to verify the sources. And if you have a question, maybe you're having access to files that are highly confidential, then you're responsible for that file. You're using Gen AI to nurture it, but as a user, you're also responsible. So there's a very common phrase that's garbage in, garbage out. So if you feed the system with poor data, with trash data, what's going to come out? You know what that is? It's not going to be a system. It's going to be trash. It's going to be awful. So there are new tools. That's very thrilling. It's not book Elim. I invite you to get to know this. It's literally like your notebook where you are feeding in the data, and you can play with Gen AI to issue reports, or draw conclusions, or get extracts of information, but always mentioning which one of the files that you put in is referencing to, because it's a conversation. You're telling it, hey, I want to know the 4 people who have run in the Olympics the most. And it tells you the results, and then you start saying, but what are their nationalities? And it'll always tell you the source. And that's a great advantage because as a user, it allows you to know more. You can double click it and get in deeper. For those of you who don't know, and we had just talked about this notebook, Helen, it's a wonderful tool. If you have any files, documents, you can upload them, or notes that you may have, a PDF file even. And in just a few minutes or a few seconds, can set up a podcast, a conversation between two people in English about your document with an amazing quality. One of the things that we've realized is how we learn. For those of us who are Generation X, we Gen X have learned based on frequency, iterations, 1, 2, 3, 4, like math or spelling rules or history. But the new generations are learning more with understanding the concepts, and the study methods have changed. I would have given my left arm if I had a cell phone in school. I had to request a specific time, arrive with a floppy disk. Many of you may not know what that is, but sometimes information got deleted by no apparent reason. But I would have killed for the chance to have a podcast for studio, and maybe I would have been in the bus or in the car, and I could have been listening and learning in my downtime. So it's many cases about decisions. Should I study? Should I exercise? Damn it, I have to study. You start sacrificing things that are key for your life as well. So it's about what you said too. There are other tools. Thanks for advertising our product, that notebook. But many of the things that can be created is about changing how we think about them. So the advantage of Gen AI is to rethink things. So turn it around. Maybe can you study by listening to something instead of reading? Yes, of course. You can maybe get to practice your speech at work, but on your daily commuting. So it's not cheating. I'm gonna give you an example. The relationship between the creators of YouTube with their audiences. Different from other platforms in social media where everything's, more ephemeral. It's like a minute by minute thing. In YouTube, people follow others based on their content, and it's lengthier content, so the trust that needs to be built is high. So when Gen AI was introduced, it's not that it was wrong. That's so cool. They can create better videos and better content to keep up that engagement with their audiences. But what we have noticed is that people, when they see something that's really like too produced overnight, they say like, well, what's happening here? And they feel cheated. They feel scammed. What have you done new? What have you added to this that it's so much produced, And by being transparent as creators, yes, I use Gen AI for this content, and people start saying, oh, that's cool, instead of, is that Gen AI? It's a questioning, but it's a good tool. And what we're seeing also is that when creators something with Gen AI, there's a sticker that they can add, and it says that it's synthetic content. It's about honesty with their audiences, and usually creators who are not motivated start producing, but when they see that their content is reaching people, it's growing, they are more motivated, and we want to promote that relationship. I wanted to ask you about how you at Google are using the same tools that you are developing, and I'm asking because of the following. Recently, a study came out about the frustration that is being seen in the industry overall and creators, because there's a group of people that thinks that we're going to be more productive, and the people that are supposed to be more productive are concerned because they think that their bosses want them to be more productive. So what are you seeing in your company? Because in Chile we're seeing that integration little by little. Everyone thinks that they're gonna learn just because the tools are available and are out there. So how are you motivating or engaging your staff so that they actually use the products? We have dog fooding. That dog fooding program, it's about us testing our solutions before they go to the market. We are testing our own pilots, so we use them to receive feedback. So people might say, "Oh, well, this isn't not as cool," and the same engineers can continue developing the tools. Notebook Lens it was a great finding. It's a 20% project, as we call it. What if we do this? And a group of people gather around, not necessarily from the same team, and they develop a new product. That's how Gmail was born. But despite all of that, I use Notebook LM a lot. And the last one that I was using, that it may sound crazy, last night, I was invited by people from Nestlé to the 9th encounter of youth from the Pacific. And there's a mix between two presentations, the one that I gave you today and the one for the youth I was helping out yesterday. So when I went out of that, I flipped, I needed to enter into MediaMorfosis. So I was talking to Gemini Live. I was really speaking to it. I need to transform my message. The first thing I said was context. It is a spoken speech. This is not a prompting. So my goal is this one. I want to convey a message that is much more positive about AI and how generative AI, despite it's only at the initial steps, can truly help us drive our imagination. So I started telling it everything because I went into my notes, my slides, and I fed them into Gemini. And all of us use it differently, of course, but it's always being promoted, the fact that we use it. 2016, that was 8 years ago. So since Gmail, since synthesizing documents, creating them as an audio file, make them into slides, collaboration. The Meet versions that we had installed in our computers were different than the ones already in the market. But AI is really integrated in all of our daily work. I don't want to sound braggy or whatever, but when our president said we stopped being mobile first and now we're becoming an AI first company, it changed our internal culture. It's always about testing and giving feedback. What I said earlier about learning and iterating, you need to constantly fail so that learning is faster, but success is exponential to failure. So that is part of our culture, our day-to-day culture. The kids, well, my direct reports are not the product developers, but I sometimes receive disruptive solutions, quite disruptive. Hey, I'm working with this customer and I want to bring all of these new prototypes of how to have creatives immediately. The answer to that is it compliant? Go for it. And do it. The fact that there's teams collaboration, because sometimes I'm the least technical of all of them, and they say, I need a chat with you, a meeting, and I like to use my whiteboard, and I would draw something, I send a picture, interpret it, and they come up with solutions for me. It could be automation for sheets or presentations, how to stop videos, download them, and more sophisticated stuff like when it's like Cyber Week, something that demands a lot of people in the background, so that every product that people are searching for at the same time is found. But what you're looking is pair of sneakers, you want a lipstick, you want a trip, you want a surfboard, you want that phone, you want the same phone, you want that phone's cover, whatever, so that everything works. They use so much of the AI, Gen AI, to create reports, instant reports, so that it can tell others what people are searching for. They're interested in this. What better way to be aware of the supply and demand in real time? It's not artistic creativity, but it's still creativity. It's about how to use the tools for a useful purpose. Oh, okay. Oh, just a very quick thing then. I was very interested in the tool that you showed, but are you working on something about video editing? We've seen that YouTube is one of the major streaming platforms out there, and the competition has come up with a lot of tools to maybe rethink shorter content like YouTube Shorts and see a lot more competition, but it would be best if it was native. So how are you using a VO is coming, and VO is helping us to create videos from prompts. Look for VEO on YouTube. It's still not integrated, but it's coming soon. Now, going back to what you said in the beginning about the responsibilities, well, we want it to be a world-class product. So sometimes we prefer to take a little longer. And maybe otherwise we might be the most popular and then the next day the least popular because we hurried up and made mistakes. So we want to take our time. Thank you. Thank you for participating. Thank you too. We invite you to know all about Google's tools.